Thanks, Lashkan Corla. Minister, in recent weeks there has been a clamour to lift the passenger cap at Dublin Airport to enable further untrammelled growth. There's a clamour coming from DAA, coming from the airlines, including Michael O'Leary of Ryanair, who has said that the DAA should just ignore the cap. The Taoiseach, of course, has backed them up. The question, Minister, is whether you support Fine Gael and Ryanair, who want to lift the cap, whether you support your Green Party colleagues like Kieran Cuff, MEP, who has rightly questioned the wisdom of doing this during the climate crisis.
Thanks very much, Deputy.
Disappointed.
And, give you a different... other parties involved in government as well. Increasing the capacity of Dublin Airport is in line with the National Aviation Policy, which recognises the strategic importance of Dublin Airport in meeting national social and economic policy goals, and including a specific objective of developing Dublin Airport as a hub airport with the necessary capacity to connect key existing and emerging global markets. While the importance of the airport to Ireland's island economy is recognised, it is important to government in ensuring the sustainable development of Dublin Airport to balance the objectives of the National Aviation Policy, the needs of business and tourism interests, and the legitimate rights of local residents. DAA has statutory responsibility for the management, operation and development of Dublin Airport. It is DAA's responsibility to engage with the relevant planning authorities in all planning matters, including the lifting of the cap and the development of new infrastructure required to support increased connectivity. The 32 million passenger cap in place at Dublin Airport is a condition attached to planning permission granted by An Bord Pleanála for Terminal 2. I'm aware that the DAA, as you've stated, intends to submit a planning application to the relevant planning authority in the coming weeks to allow it to grow beyond 32 million passengers a year to 40 million a year. The application will also seek permission for all associated infrastructure required to support this increase in passengers, including the construction of new aircraft piers and stands. I would also like to advise the Deputy that the Aircraft Noise Regulation Act provides a wholly independent aircraft noise regulation process in accordance with EU law and the established ANCA as the independent noise regulator. The Act also provides that all future development is subject to assessment and mitigation in respect of the impact of associated aircraft movements. This provides a safeguard against any award of planning permission until such time as the proposal has been fully assessed in relation to noise impacts. The Deputy will be aware that the CEO of DAA confirmed, as you've said, that until planning permission to grow beyond 32 million is granted, it will continue to manage passenger capacity through the terminals at Dublin Airport to ensure that this planning condition is not breached. I'll set out further context when I have time in the next piece.
Thanks. The Minister referred to sustainable growth or sustainable development of the airline sector, something like that. I mean, do you accept that, like, if you increase the number of passengers from 32 million to 40 million per year, you're going to have a significant increase in emissions? It is simply that simple. I mean, I think it was the CEO of DAA on the radio trying to claim that, actually, by increasing the number of passengers, we'll then be able to invest in things like electric buses and so on in the airport and actually will reduce emissions, when clearly the lion's share of emissions is caused by the actual flying. So I just don't see it as being compatible with the government's commitments that it has already made in terms of significant reductions of greenhouse gases by 2030, 51%, the commitments that will be made in the course of the next couple of weeks at COP, to then envisage expanding the airport, expanding the number of flights in and out.
Thank you. What I would say is Dublin Airport is a key driver of growth in our economy and the international gateway for trade, inward investment and tourism. In addition, as the Deputy will be aware, Census 22 showed that Ireland's population increased by 8% between 2016 and 22 and by 31% since 2002. And while alternatives to air travel such as rail can provide essential connectivity for many of our European neighbours, we do not have similar options as an island nation, and air transport will therefore remain essential for our economy and for our people. And we look at the economic importance of our airport. It contributes employment towards 116,000 people in Ireland in the recent Intervista study, and contributes a total of 9.6 billion in gross value added, which is the equivalent of 2.3% of GDP. And we do want to ensure Dublin Airport grows in a sustainable way. We're establishing a sustainable aviation Fuel Task Force to ensure that at a wider policy level we make sure that aviation in Ireland can grow in a sustainable way, and that we have alternatives from an energy perspective as well. And we'll be working with a whole range of stakeholders to ensure that we meet European and go beyond our European obligations in the context of the opportunities on sustainable aviation fuel.
Thanks. That's an oxymoron. Sustainable growth of the airline sector. That is an oxymoron. Until we have some technology that is very, very far away, may never arrive, that is simply an oxymoron. If you have, it's extremely the most carbon intensive way to travel, never mind talking about the private jets, which are obviously even more because you're talking about all this weight taking off fuel by fossil fuels for just a few passengers. It is the most unsustainable way to travel. And yet the government thinks that we can expand this in a sustainable way. You cannot. It's a choice. You expand it, or you actually seriously try to achieve the climate targets. And that precisely means saying, no, we shouldn't be expanding our airports, we shouldn't be expanding the number of passengers, and instead investing in things like ferries, rail, and so on to try and limit, and I would say a ban on private jets. I just don't see how this is compatible with what the government has signed up for in terms of cuts in the transport sector.
Minister, to conclude.
Just say increasing the capacity of Dublin Airport is in line with our national aviation policy, which recognises the strategic importance of Dublin Airport in meeting national, social and economic policy goals, and includes a specific objective of developing Dublin Airport as a hub airport with the necessary capacity to connect key existing and emerging global markets. We are an island economy, and in the interests of business, tourism, trade, and also many people in our communities who value the importance of connectivity and in terms of European and other markets, and it's important that's not forgotten in this context. But we do want to make sure, as it develops, that Dublin Airport meets its climate commitments by reducing emissions itself, and there's strong commitments from the airport around sustainability, and also developing, if you look at the wider aviation sector and how sustainable aviation fuel is developing across many economies and countries, and that's why we're establishing a Sustainable Aviation Fuel Task Force, so we can plan a pathway to scale that up in our country in the years to come, so that aviation can be sustainable, but can also ensure that we meet the needs of our citizens, our businesses and our trade as an island nation.